Okay, people are still having a hard time understanding what a holodeck is. No, they're not. I mean, anybody that's watched Star Treks have seen holodecks. If you lived in a holodeck all the time, I mean, if you were born into a holodeck, if no one told you it was a holodeck, how would you know you were in a holodeck or not? And if everyone else who was in the holodeck didn't put two and two together and understand they were living in a holodeck, and they sent you to, the kind of schools that we went to, um, it's the blind leading the blind. No one puts it all together. You live in a holodeck. Is it the same as Star Trek? I don't know. Because even if you go on the internet and you look into how they do holodecks in the Star Trek world, in the canon of Star Trek, um, it's interesting. They give you some interesting ideas how it could be done. But it's not really going to be accurate. The holodeck that we live in is created by our consciousness. The big problem we have with the blind leading the blind is we consider things to be physical, physical things. They're solid things. They're physical. It's always been physical. This is not a holodeck. This is not a hologram. Yes, it is. But you were born into a world that didn't understand, and you were told this is physical. Physicality is Newtonian, Sir Isaac Newton's laws of gravity. 1700s, this kind of science that we're talking about. It's very old and it's out of date. We live in a world with better descriptions of what reality is all about than something from the 1700s. So, we don't expect to see real magic in a physical world because we're told magic is just make believe. But if you watch Star Trek, things can happen in a holodeck that are, to a physical person's way of looking at things, magic. In one story, people found a hammer in old rock. And everyone looks at it and says, this doesn't follow, doesn't compute. I mean, yes, humans use hammers, but humans weren't around millions of years ago when this rock was formed. And somehow this hammer got inserted into, maybe it wasn't millions, maybe it was billions of year old rock. How can that be? In the physical planet that we were taught in school, um, it doesn't compute because we were told, well, you've got things like there's a different kind of carbon. It's not carbon dating, but it's radioactive dating to see how old rock is with organic materials like, fossil beings, fossil bones and things. You can use carbon 14, but for rocks, you can use it's some kind of radioactive decay. So you could go and look at this hammer that appears in millions or billions of years old rock to see what's going on. When I saw this thing, it didn't look like they did a radiocarbon date on the wooden shaft of the hammer. That's what they should have done. And then radio or whatever kind of dating you do to date the rock. I mean, it could be just a hoax. And then you wouldn't have to have a holodeck to make it appear to your senses to be an impossibility. I mean, someone who had advanced Star Trek-like technologies could take a standard hammer and beam it into old rock. Just because you can't go down to Walmart and get a transporter beam machine doesn't mean they don't exist. I don't believe that we could have done that on Earth. Well, maybe some other star system where they're more advanced than us. And they did it. For fun. There's a lot of different explanations for inexplicable things. But I always come back to Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction writer. And he said, sufficiently advanced technology and magic are indistinguishable. And today's shirt is Mighty Mouse, and there is... It doesn't look like a mouse. It looks like the Tasmanian devil. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. I put out all kinds of mind-expanding ideas.